Hello students, welcome to the daily news analysis session. Here we are going to cover the most important articles from The Hindu and Indian Express. The articles which are very much important from exam perspective, which requires more analysis to be done. These we are going to discuss over here. The first article of the day is on the exception to marital rape mentioned on the page number 10 of The Hindu. Now this article specifically talks about the marital rape. For us, it is important to know the legal status of marital rape that exists in India. Now, second article mentioned in Indian Express talks about four issues in Assam verdict. Now, those four issues are not important, but there is a judgment given by Supreme Court related to Section 6A of Citizenship Act. This is related to Assam Accord. So, we need to know the relation. We need to know what Supreme Court has specifically said in this particular judgment. And third article mentioned in on the page number 8 of The Hindu. It talks about a modified UBI policy may be more feasible. So they are talking about UBI policy. UBI means Universal Basic Income. So here we'll discuss what is Universal Basic Income in short, and we'll understand why do we actually need it, why we are even talking about this particular policy. Okay, so these are the three important articles. I suggest if you get any kind of doubt, please ask it in the comment box. Okay, now let's start with the first topic on the exception to marital rape. Now, first of all, as I said, we need to know the legal status. This topic becomes important for us from different perspectives. If you look at GS paper 1, GS paper 1 mentions about role of women. So gender related issues, women related issues are multiple times asked in GS paper 1. Then there can be question in GS paper 2 also, because GS paper 2 mentions about mechanisms, laws, institutions or bodies that exist in India to protect vulnerable sections. And when we talk about vulnerable sections, women are certainly part of it. Also, there can be a question related to marital rape in your GS4 ethics paper, where you need to take an ethical stand with respect to this particular controversial issue. Okay, so I'm just trying to tell you that this topic is highly important. Now look at this previous year question asked in 2019. What are the continued challenges for women in India against time and space? So they are asking about what all challenges, what are all issues women face with respect to time and space. So they are saying in ancient time, medieval time, modern time, wherever, if you go to any time period, what kind of issues they are facing. And in space, that means at different localities, at different regions also, what kind of issues they face. So such a broad question has been asked earlier. So when it comes to marital rape, this can be one of the topic, subtopic also for your entire women related issues, or even it can be a separate topic for you to understand. Okay, now let's start with the context. What is the exact news? Now recently Supreme Court has said that we are going to hear some petitions which are challenging exception 2 to section 375 of Indian Penal Code. Now you don't need to worry about these technical terminologies. Just understand one thing, that in India, marital rape is not considered as a crime. Now first of all, what is marital rape? So if you know, simply when you understand the idea of rape, rape is nothing but sexual intercourse done without the consent of other person. You have not taken the consent. So if you have seen that movie called Pink by Amitabh Bachchan, there is a dialogue which says no means no. The dialogue is trying to say that if the woman is not giving you the consent for the sexual intercourse, in that case the other person has no right to go ahead with it. So if you are going ahead with that act, then it is called rape. Now what happens is that in case of a married woman, the situation differs. What happens is that usually it is expected that if two people are married, they will have some kind of sexual intercourse. And the husband considers or assumes that I don't need any kind of consent from this woman. I already have the consent which I got in the form of the marriage. So they will go for such sexual intercourse without the consent. So even if she is saying no, the person will still go ahead with it. So we are saying this is nothing but rape. and this can be called as marital rape. So rape done by your spouse or your husband is called as marital rape. Now this is also a kind of sexual violence. See, the person does not want to go through that process and you are forcefully doing it. That means it is some kind of a crime. But the problem is, in Indian laws, if you look at Indian Penal Code, section 375, which defines rape, it doesn't say that marital rape can be considered like a normal rape or other rape, and that's why it is not punishable as such. Now, if we go back in the history to check how this phenomena became so much clear for us that marital rape is considered as a very normal thing. So, the history shows us that the genesis lies in the British Raj. If you look at Britain, specifically between 17th to 19th century, in this time period, the Britain came up with some codification, some laws, and this English law specifically had a doctrine called doctrine of coverture. This doctrine of coverture says that when two persons are getting married, specifically a woman is getting married to a person, then that woman is giving up everything she has to the husband, even her identity. So from now onwards, once she is getting married, after that, she will not have any sexual intercourse against her consent. That is also considered as a normal thing because she has given all her rights to the husband. This is the principle or the doctrine of coverture. Now, this was brought in Britain, and because India was under British Raj, we saw that the same law came into picture in Indian laws also. But there is an interesting story. In the year 1991, Britain criminalized marital rape. That means Britain said that earlier we did not consider this marital rape as a crime, but now we are considering it as a crime and we will punish anyone who is going ahead with such marital rape. They did this in the year 1991. But if you look at India, who has got inspired or who has adopted this law has not even criminalized it till now. So if you look at Indian laws, specifically Indian Penal Code, now the name of Indian Penal Code has been changed. We have reformed the system. Now we call it BNS. Instead of IPC, we call it BNS. Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita. I'm sorry, it's S. Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita. So if you look at what has been specifically mentioned in the Indian Penal Code or Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita, it says that sexual intercourse by a man with his wife, if she is over the age of 18, is not considered rape. That means they are not ready to accept marital rape as a crime. That means if a person is going ahead with sexual intercourse against the consent, still it is considered normal. Still it is not considered as crime by our laws, specifically section 375 of IPC or section 63 of Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita. Clear? Now, if we talk about why are we talking about criminalizing it? Why are we saying that marital rape should also be considered as a crime just like any other rape? One of the reasons is the violation of human rights, or specifically to say the fundamental rights given by our constitution to us. So if you look at Article 14 of Indian Constitution, Article 14 clearly says that there is equality before the law and equal protection of law. That means everyone, every citizen of India is equal. And Article 15 says that you cannot discriminate people on the basis of sex. Now, what is happening? If that person goes ahead with the sexual intercourse with her without the consent, that is not considered as rape. That means what is happening? We are not giving equal status to these two women. We are discriminating on the basis of sex. So this completely goes against Article 14 and Article 15. Okay. Then we have some Supreme Court and High Court judgments which also specifically talk about marital rape, how we can criminalize it. For example, we have this case called Suchita Srivastav versus Chandigarh administration. In this case, Supreme Court said that the women's bodily autonomy is very important. If a woman does not have control or authority over her own body, then how can you say that the person is free? So they talked about Article 21 of the Constitution. Article 21 talks about personal liberty, right to life. So when you talk about right to life and personal liberty, this particular marital rape completely violates it because it is her own body. She will decide whether she will go ahead with a particular act or she will not. So this article particularly gets violated. Then we have this case Puttaswamy versus Union of India. In this case also similar judgment was given. So more or less I'm trying to tell you that even Supreme Court has taken some stance wherein they feel that it needs to be criminalized. It is important for the fundamental rights. Then moving ahead, if we talk about Delhi High Court's judgment in the year 2022. Now the problem is that Supreme Court comes up with the judgment, but the lawmaking is something which is done by the parliament and not the judiciary. Now what happened in the year 2022? Delhi High Court came up with a split verdict. In this verdict, why I'm calling it a split verdict? Split means there were two judges. One judge said something yes, other judge said no. So this is called split judgment. So there is no concrete judgment as such. What happened? One judge said that marital rape is an unconstitutional thing. It goes completely against the constitution. It goes completely against the fundamental rights. Whereas the other judge said that no, we cannot call it unconstitutional as such. Why? He too had one argument to give. He said that in India, marriage is considered to be a sacrament thing, a very important thing. And when a person gets married, especially if you look at Indian culture or Indian people, they have a mindset or they have a thought process which clearly says that when you are married to someone, then you are not two different people, you are one unit altogether. And here you have already given that consent for sexual intercourse. So that's why the issue becomes very much complex. There is no clear cut clarity on the judiciary side whether to know whether they are ready to criminalize it or not. Anyway, they cannot criminalize it. It is the job of parliament to come up with a specific law. Okay. Now, moving further. If we look at the data given by National Family Health Survey 5 of year 2019 to 2021. Now, this is a very important data, comes from the government sites. Now, this data clearly mentions that if you look at Indian women specifically, one third of Indian married women in India, they face some kind of physical violence or sexual violence. Now, this data is clearly saying that it is very common to see some kind of physical or sexual violence in India. Why this happens? Because our society is very much patriarchal. In our society, women's rights are not completely accepted. The social structure is made in such a way, the social rules are made in such a way that they don't accept complete equality. Just to give you an example, if you go to home, if you look at who is cooking your food, who is making your meal, you will say your mother or your sister. So the job of cooking has been assigned to women anyway. So this is just one example. I'm trying to say that it is very common to see patriarchy getting manifested, or the patriarchy which exists that gets replicated in the form of some kind of violence. So here this violence shows that somewhere, so if India has signed any convention, it is our responsibility that we modify our laws, we reform our laws on the same lines. Now, in case of this, here we see one particular convention. Convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. In short, it is also called as CEDAW. Now, this is an international convention signed by many countries, including India. India has also signed it. And now it is our responsibility that we have our legal standards similar to this law. This particular convention also says that we need to carry out some legal reforms through which we protect women from all kinds of vulnerabilities, from all kinds of violence. And when you say all kinds of violence, then the sexual violence is one of it, one specific part of it. So all of these arguments, these are specifically made to show you that why we need to criminalize marital rape. Criminalize means making it a crime under your laws, so that in case any person is going ahead with it, he will be penalized, he will be taken to jail or given some kind of penalty. Okay. Now, till now we have just talked about why do we need to go ahead with marital rape. Now I'll talk about why we should not go ahead with it. There are some people, some scholars who will argue against this criminalization, and they have some valid points to make. For example, first thing they say that it will destabilize the marriage. Now specifically, Government of India is also taking similar kind of stance wherein they are saying we should not criminalize it. Why? Because when you're talking about marriage, marriage is something which is considered as sacrament or something that is very pure, because the entire society came together and observed this marriage. They gave their blessing. Now, this marriage as an institution is existing since years. It's not like nowadays marriages are taking place. They're taking place since ancient times. So, in India specifically, the Indian culture gives very much importance to marriage. Now, when you start considering marital rape as a crime, what will happen? A woman is going to court against her husband. What will happen? The private affair now will reach to Supreme Court, and what will happen is that this will create some problems with respect to some false cases also. Now, this is one of the argument that if a woman goes to court and says that there has been some marital rape and I want that my husband should be jailed. Now, who knows whether it was a marital rape or there was some consent taken? Because whatever happened, that was completely a private affair. Nobody was witnessing, and you will not have any kind of evidence as such. Can court actually go into the evidence and check it? No, you cannot check it. So there is problem of proof and evidences also. And this will destabilize the marriage. If you allow this kind of a thing, marital rape is criminalized, then the institution of marriage, whether it will survive or not, people will not have any faith in the marriage as an institution. That's why these people are saying we should not criminalize it. We said that in case of India, there is some cultural difference. For example, if you look at other cultures, they will consider marriage as a contract. It's a contract which has been signed by two people. Whereas in case of India, it is not a contract. It is something very pure. It is very sacrament. It has been done with many rituals. So it has some element of religion also, culture also, and society also. So they are saying you should not interfere in this social institution directly. Then there is angle of excessive legal interference. Excessive means, see, when you go to court, the court gets into investigation, and to collect proof and evidences, they will ask you questions. They will go deeper into that. But does court have the authority to go into your private matters and private affairs? Because these family issues, can these be actually solved by the court? And most importantly, why should we allow court to go into these excessive details? So this is excessive legal interference. Law is interfering in your personal private life. This is a concerning thing. And at last, the final argument made is that the society is not ready. Even if government, let's say parliament, comes up with a law which says that marital rape is now a crime, but do you think society will accept it? And if society doesn't accept any particular law, what is the use of that law? For example, we have a law to prohibit, let's say, dowry. We have a law, but people are taking dowry. Nothing is happening because society accepts dowry. We have Prevention of Corruption Act, but still corruption is going on because society accepts it. So society's acceptance matters. If society accepts marital rape as a normal thing, you can't do anything. And most importantly, if you bring a law against the will of society, against the desires of society, then there is a chance that people may show some kind of resistance. They may become angry towards maybe Supreme Court, maybe government, anyone. They may come up with some kind of protest against the government. So all of these things are possible. That's why they are saying we should not go ahead with criminalization of marital rape. Now moving forward, further, if you look at some of the committees that are set up or what is exactly happening throughout the world, it's not like India is the only country who is discussing whether we should criminalize marital rape. It's not just India. You look at more than 100 countries who have already criminalized it, or the discussion is still going on in other countries to criminalize it. So India is one of them. And in the 21st century, we are living in the modern age. We expect that the dignity of women is respected. We expect that violence towards women should be reduced to zero. That's why we are saying even India should go ahead with it. Now, there was a committee called Justice Verma Committee. This committee was set up after this 2012 Delhi gang rape. So, you must have heard about Nirbhaya case. This is the same case. After Nirbhaya case, Justice Verma Committee came up with its report. One of the recommendation this committee gave was that we should go ahead with criminalization of marital rape. So, this report also says we should go ahead with criminalization. So as a way forward, if you are asking me what should we actually do as a country, as a government body or anything, first thing, we need some legislative reform. We need to make changes in the laws. So for example, our IPC or BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, we need to make changes in that section, and obviously that can be done by our parliament. Secondly, we also need to ensure that in case there are some kind of false allegations, false cases, then there should be some protection given to husbands also if some kind of false case has been registered against them. So you should have a law which is very strong, which acts against the false actions also, and which gives protection to the genuine cases also and takes these genuine cases seriously. Okay. Now, apart from that, just by bringing law, nothing will happen. We need some change in the society. First of all, you need to change the attitude of society. If the society has attitude of patriarchy, you cannot do anything. So you need change in the mindset. That will come with education, that will come with awareness. And first of all, we need to focus on this aspect that there are some stereotypes, some prejudices in the minds of people which go completely against the dignity of women. We have a notion that we assume that women are not that capable and men are capable. Unless this stereotype is removed, unless these cultural norms are removed, you cannot expect that these laws will do some justice to the society. So we need to do all of this. Okay. So that's it about this article related to marital rape. If you have any doubt, please ask. Prasenjit, AC बढ़ा दें. Okay, no doubt. Let's move ahead with the second article. Now, second article is related to Assam Accord. Just a second. Yes, it is related to the Citizenship Act 1955, Section 6A specifically. Now, this article becomes important for GS paper 2. In GS paper 2, our constitution, in our constitution, if you look at article 5 to article 11, they specifically talk about citizenship. Okay, and article 11 specifically says that Parliament of India has the power to make laws related to citizenship. State government, state assembly does not have any right. It is the right only of Parliament. So Parliament brought one law. That law is Citizenship Act of 1955. So we are talking about that act. And because it is part of the Constitution, we must know about it. Now look at this previous year question. How does illegal transborder migration pose a threat to India's security? Discuss the strategies to curb this, bringing out the factors which give impetus to such migration. Now, this question specifically focuses on migration, or what we call as immigration, illegal immigration that takes place. So, even when we are talking about Citizenship Act, that is also related to illegal immigration. Now, what has recently happened? Recently, Supreme Court has said that Section 6A of the Citizenship Act of 1955 is exactly right, because someone had gone to court saying that, sir, this particular section is wrong, it is unconstitutional. But Supreme Court said it is constitutional and it is right. So now we'll go in detail to see what is this particular section. Now look at the story. You don't need to go through all the technical details, but you will understand it by this story. If you look at India and if you look at Pakistan, India and Pakistan got separated in the year 1947. And at that particular time period, if you look at the map, you will see Pakistan was this much. This was called as West Pakistan. This one was called as East Pakistan. So Pakistan was there in two different parts. Okay. Now, this particular part in 1971 became an independent country altogether, and now we call it Bangladesh, right? But earlier it was East Pakistan. Now, at the time of 1971 or before that, what was happening is that this West Pakistan was trying to dominate over East Pakistan continuously. Whether it is the politics, whether it is the economics or anything, they were trying to dominate. And when the people of this region started resisting the military rule of Pakistan, there, there led to some conflict wherein the military of Pakistan started doing some inhumanitarian acts. They started killing, raping people. Many horrible things happened in the East Pakistan region. Now, when this was happening, even India was, anyway, India shares borders, so India had to involve in this. Here, at the time of Indira Gandhi, in the year 1971, India helped these people of East Bengal, in fighting a war against West Pakistan. And why India gone into it? Because some genocide, some wrong activities were being carried out. And when these wrong activities were being carried out, India was facing a problem that many people from this East Pakistan or the present day Bangladesh were migrating to India, because we share border, right? We have West Bengal, we have Assam, Meghalaya, many states are there, and people were migrating to India. It is very obvious, like you can think about this situation. Let's say the place where you are living right now, if someone starts killing others, let's say someone comes up with a gun and starts killing others, in that case, will you stay there? No, you will start going to some other place. Similarly, if something wrong is happening in this region, obviously people will try to go to some other place, and obviously a safe place was India. So people migrate, but this migration is illegal. If you are migrating to any other country, migration means going there, traveling there, going and staying over there. So if you are migrating to a particular country, then you need to apply for visa, you need to take the permission of that country, only then you can go. But here people were migrating. So at this particular time period, many people from this region of Bangladesh or East Pakistan migrated to India. Now this migration did not completely stop. The migration continued even after 1971. This is a very important thing. Many people came before 1971 and many people even came after 1971. Migration continued. After some time, if we look at the state of Assam, many people in Assam started feeling that in our region, many other people have come, and this is leading to some changes in our demography and our culture. So they started feeling that in our region outsiders are living and their number is continuously increasing. This is not a good thing for us. We are losing our land, we are losing our language, we are losing our culture. So they started feeling some kind of hatred towards this situation. And anywhere in the world, you will find that if migration takes place continuously for a very long time period, then the localites will start feeling some negative, they will start getting some negative attitude towards these outsiders. This is very genuine thing which was happening in Assam. Now, what happened is that many people in Assam started protesting. Specifically, if I have to say, there's an organization called Assam All Assam Students Union. In short, it is called as ASU. This was a union. This was an organization of students, and they started protesting against government of India, saying that because of you this illegal immigration is taking place and you have to get these people back to Bangladesh, send these people back to Bangladesh. They should not become citizens of India, they should not stay in Assam. Now what government of India did, government of India had gone for some negotiation, and after negotiation they signed a contract or a treaty with this All Assam Students Union. That treaty is called as Assam Accord. Okay, this treaty is called as Assam Accord, signed in the year 1985. Please check whether 1984 or 1985. Now this treaty was specifically signed and it said that we will have a fixed date. The date was fixed, saying that March 24, 1971. They said that any person who has come to India after this date, after 1971, that person will be considered as an illegally migrated person. And Indian government is going to deport that person, send that person back to Bangladesh. Anyone who came after 1971 March 24. But government said that those people who came to India before 1971 March 24, they have been living over here since a very long time. They have come here before the liberation of Bangladesh itself. So it becomes very problematic. So these people will be given Indian citizenship. Obviously, after certain period, after a particular period, they said, we will give you citizenship of India. This was specifically mentioned in the Assam Accord. And obviously, what will happen is that this can be something which is contradictory to the Constitution of India. If you look at Constitution, specifically Article 5 to Article 11, which talk about citizenship, it mentions clearly that whoever came to India or whoever has gone away from India, their citizenship status has been decided on the date or the year of 1948. So now there is a confusion whether we should assume 1948, which is for entire India, or we should have a specific date of 1971, which is specifically made for Assam, right? So what government did? Government came up with a specific section. They made amendment in this Citizenship Act of 1955. In that they brought this section 6A. This 6A said that for specifically for Assam, this will be the case that those who will come after March 24, 1971, they'll not get citizenship, but those who came before 1971, they'll be given citizenship. So this special thing, special provision was being made through this 6A Act. Okay, 6A section of Citizenship Act. This act was brought by government through parliament. Why did they brought it? Because they wanted to ensure that Assam Accord, which was signed between ASU and government of India, that gets implemented. Because in this treaty or in this accord, they said that we will do this thing. So they did this thing through section 6A of Citizenship Act. Now after that, many people went to Supreme Court saying that this 6A is completely wrong. Why it is wrong? because this goes against constitution, this goes against the constitutional provisions mentioned in article 5 to 11. But right now Supreme Court came up with the decision clearly saying that this is constitutional, this particular 6A section is right, nothing wrong in that. Clear? So this is entirely section 6A of Citizenship Act. Okay, now let me check if there is any kind of doubt. No doubts. Okay, now the third article of the day, the last article. This is related to universal basic income. The article which is mentioned in The Hindu, it is talking about whether we should have a modified universal basic income policy or not. But first we need to know what is universal basic income. This topic becomes important for GS paper 2 also and GS paper 3 also. If I talk about GS paper 3 specifically, Indian economy specifically, there comes the growth, development, employment angle, and from that perspective, this topic becomes important. Now look at this previous year question. It says, an essential condition to eradicate poverty is to liberate the poor from the process of deprivation. Substantiate this statement with suitable examples. Although the question is focusing on poverty, we want to remove poverty. One of the solution which is given is to provide some universal basic income. So first let's understand what is this specific idea, what is exactly happening in India. Now we all know that India is growing. It is said that India is one of the fastest growing economy in the world. We are growing. We are one of the top 5 economies in the world. It is being said that we'll become top 3. We are one of the richest countries, or we are one of the best economies in the world. We are growing. We are doing very good in terms of economy, right? But people in India are poor. People in India are not truly benefiting from the growth that is taking place in India. That's why we say that in India, what is happening is jobless growth. That means the country is growing, economy is growing, GDP is growing. But people are not getting that much jobs. We are observing that our unemployment ratio is continuously increasing. Many people are there who are unemployed. They're not getting jobs. Many people are getting unemployed. They were having jobs. Now they are getting removed from the job. For example, there was a person who was doing some work. Because artificial intelligence came, he lost his job. So we are saying India is growing, but the growth is jobless. Now when you have a big population in which there are many people who do not have any job, but you have got a substantial money, your economy is growing. It is the responsibility of the government to take care of these people who do not have job. They don't have job, that means for their basic needs. For the basic, what are the basic needs? The food, shelter, a place to live, and some clothes to get on. So for all these basic needs, you need some amount. That amount could be anything, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, anything. But any person in India would require some amount to ensure his or her basic needs. And there emerged an idea that why can't we provide a specific amount of money to all the Indians in the form of universal basic income. Universal basic income. We are talking about basic income, some basic amount or some income to be provided to every individual, and it is universal. So universal means everyone will get that. So in simple terms, even if you are very rich, let's say you are Ambani or Adani, you will also get that particular amount from the government, and I will also get that amount. You will also get, every individual in our society, whether poor or rich, will get this amount because it is universal. Clear? Second, it is a cash transfer and not kind transfer. That means you must have seen that government of India sometimes gives you something in kind. For example, we have PDS scheme through which we provide some crops. For example, rice, wheat, pulses. Everything comes through that ration card. You go to the shop and you get that. So here we are directly providing some food items to people. We are not giving them money directly in the hand. But in case of universal basic income, you will be provided cash directly in your hand. You do whatever you want to do with it. And third, it is unconditional. That means government will not say that if you do this particular thing only then we'll give you that amount. There will not be any condition. So here, this idea of universal basic income is that it is the job of government to take care of its citizens, and if the people of the country are unemployed or not in a position to take care of themselves, the government should provide them some basic income in their bank account so that they can take care of their basic expenses. Okay, this is universal basic income. Now, it is not something very new. Many countries are actually already implementing or trying to implement this concept of universal basic income. Specifically, if I talk about India, our economic survey of 2016-17, it said that India should go ahead with this concept of universal basic income. But there is a problem. Many people will say that, sir, if we have to provide some amount, let's say that amount is 5,000 rupees. But if you want to provide 5,000 rupees to 140 crore people, does government of India have this much amount of money? That's a questionable thing. Even if government has this much amount of money, government also runs many schemes. Government also builds infrastructure. They put money in many other things. Are you going to stop all the schemes and give the money in the hands of people directly? Also, if everyone will have substantial amount of money in their hand, the inflation will increase. Inflation means the price of products in the market will certainly increase. So this is something which is debated. So economic survey clearly said that we should not go ahead with universal basic income for 100% population of India. They said the top 25% does not need it. We should focus on the bottom 75%. Because top 25% they are earning decent, they don't need your money. What will you do by giving 5,000 rupees to Ambani ji? Nothing will happen. But the poor people require it. So instead of universal basic income, we should have quasi universal basic income. Quasi means you can say semi or a sub. So it's kind of a universal basic income, but only for our poor or middle class population. Okay, this was the idea given by economic survey. Now, if I have to just jot down the points, why do we actually need universal basic income? First thing I already discussed, that we are going through the phase of jobless growth. Now, because of jobless growth, what is specifically happening is that we have immense poverty in India. We were poor earlier too, but our country economically is doing good. So we expected that now we'll not remain poor, but we are still poor. So here, universal basic income can help us to remove this poverty. Somewhere we will help these poor people with substantial amount. Even if it is 5,000, it is very helpful to them. So we can help a substantial population to come out of poverty. Then we can reduce income inequality. Now this is the core problem in our Indian economy right now, that we have rich population, we have poor population, and as India is growing, rich are getting more rich, poor are getting more poor. So the gap between rich and poor is continuously increasing. This is not a good thing. This is called income inequality. And if we start providing some money to this poor population, we can reduce that gap to some extent at least. So this is a good idea. Then, as I said, because of artificial intelligence, many people are losing their job. So if there comes any technology, automation, AI, because of which if people are losing their job, somewhere for that particular time period, they will have some substantial amount to at least live their life. For some time period only. After some time, they'll learn something, they'll do something, and they'll get another job. But for that time period, they will have something. Okay. Then job insecurity, unemployment. Yes, we talked about this very clearly, that unemployment, people are unemployed, then in that case they should have some amount of money. Then inefficiency of current welfare programs. What is happening is that government of India comes up with many welfare programs. They will launch this scheme, that scheme, Pradhan Mantri, this scheme, Kisan Samman Nidhi. There are so many schemes launched by government, but they are not implemented in the right manner. The schemes are not implemented properly, because of which the people are still poor, have not uplifted. We are saying that instead of coming up with so many schemes, and government is completely inefficient, they are not giving good results in terms of implementing these schemes, we should go ahead with universal basic income. People will take care of themselves. You don't need to build anything for them, they will take care of their welfare. So this is one of the argument. And at last, what matters for a country is to ensure social justice and human dignity. If your people are dying, if their human dignity is not being respected, if the rich is getting rich and poor is getting poor, and the poor is getting poor to that extent where the person will die on the very next day, he is not getting the basic health infrastructure access because he lacks the basic money. In that case, it is the job of government or the state to help them. So overall, these are the arguments why we need universal basic income. Now apart from that, we also need to see that in India, the rural part of India is having a different lifestyle altogether, and they face problem in terms of economy. For example, if you go to rural India, most of it has the economy run by agriculture. They don't have industry, they don't have service sector like urban areas. In rural areas, you will find agriculture. And in agriculture, the income will come in a seasonal manner. So once their cropping season is done, so they will harvest their crops after, let's say, 6 months. At that time they will get some amount of money. So for 6 months they need some money to live for their basic expenses. Here UBI can help. And if we give some amount of money to the people living in rural area, we can boost the economy of rural area, because people will have some capital to go ahead with some kind of business or some kind of economic activity. So overall, this is considered to be a good idea, we can say. Now to give you an example of universal basic income being implemented in many countries. For example, if you go to United States of America, they have this Alaska state. So Alaska's permanent fund distribute part of their state's oil revenue to all the residents. So whatever revenue comes from oil, they share that revenue with every resident. It's not like there is a private company and they'll take up everything. They are sharing it. So this is some kind of universal basic income. Similarly, in California, they have a fund. In Finland, they started a scheme of paying a particular amount to all the jobless people. That's a good thing done by Finland. You see similar thing in Kenya, Brazil, Canada, France, UK and Germany also tried. Scotland also tried. British Columbia, Switzerland. So overall, what I'm trying to tell you is that in the entire world, this idea of universal basic income is being discussed. Everyone is trying to come up with this idea and they want to implement this, because the core problem remains, and that core problem is income inequality, poverty, and the jobless growth. Clear? Now, if you look at the constitutional provisions, now, if you look at the Constitution of India, you see Article 21 talks about right to life. When you say right to life, you have right to life or right to live with dignity. And to live with dignity, you should have a job. You should have some basic income. If you don't have basic income, how can you protect your dignity? How can you even survive? So to protect Article 21 also, you should get universal basic income. So you can say our constitution also has inherent provision to provide universal basic income. Similarly, in the DPSPs like Article 38, Article 39, Article 41, you will find such provisions which allow state or which allow government to take such actions like universal basic income. For example, here it says state must ensure that citizens have an adequate means of livelihood. That means every citizen of India should have some means of livelihood. That means they should have some kind of a job or business. That is the job of state. Government should ensure that they should have a job. And if they don't have a job, government should provide them some money. So this is how we can say our constitution supports the idea of universal basic income through these particular provisions. I hope you understand this particular article. Okay, so these are the three articles that we had to discuss. Now, let's discuss some practice questions. Only two prelims practice questions, and I would expect you should attempt these questions. Now, first of all, consider the following statements regarding Assam Accord. Assam Accord was signed in 1985 between Government of India and leaders of Assam movement to address illegal immigration from Bangladesh. Is it right? Absolutely right. The leaders of Assam movement, I told you about ASU, right? All Assam Students Union, right? Then under the accord, all immigrants who entered Assam after March 24, 1971 are considered legal citizens. Absolutely wrong. Those who came before this particular date, they are considered citizens or they are given citizenship. But those who came after that, they are considered illegal citizens and not legal. So second statement is wrong. So answer is A, one only. Then question number 2. Which of the following are key features of universal basic income? It is a conditional cash transfer targeting only those below the poverty line. First of all, it is not a conditional cash transfer, it is unconditional. So wrong. It ensures a minimum income for all citizens regardless of their employment status or wealth. That's true. It will be applicable to everyone. It is universal. It provides in-kind benefits like food and housing along with cash transfers. No, only amount is provided. In-kind, nothing will happen. And fourth, UBI is aimed at reducing poverty and income inequality by offering direct unconditional monetary support to all individuals. That is also true. So 2 and 4, that means B is the right answer. Now look at this mains practice question. You can read this. The legal exemption for marital rape in India is a violation of constitutional guarantees and human rights. Discuss in the context of exception 2 to section 375 IPC and the ongoing debate surrounding its criminalization. So more or less they are saying that there is this legal exemption and this violates the constitutional guarantees. So in this question you need to specifically talk about the constitutional articles which which are getting violated because of this particular issue. So when you start mention about marital rape, you can in the introduction you can give reference to any Supreme Court judgment or the debate that is being taken place, or you can mention about this IPC section 375, the exception. This all you can mention. In the body part, please talk about the constitutional articles, specifically Article 14, Article 15, Article 21, and here mention how these articles are specifically getting violated. In detail, you have to mention that. Then you can talk about the human rights violation, like there is this convention called CEDAW, which I already talked about. You can mention that too. And then you can conclude saying that marital rape has to be debated, and we need to eventually, the philosophy of constitution says that we need to protect the vulnerable population. We need to protect. So to protect, if it requires us to criminalize marital rape, we should go ahead with it. And in the conclusion you can say that there is a need of awareness. Okay, so this is how you can go ahead with this particular topic. I hope you liked the daily news analysis for today. Let's meet in the next session. Thank you.